At LSI, we don't just follow trends, we help shape the future. Welcome to Behind the Win, the podcast where we break down the biggest moves in tech, innovation, leadership, and government contracting. Here at LSI, we're bringing you exclusive conversations with the minds behind groundbreaking advancements, disruptive strategies, and industry-defining wins. From retail to tech, defense to government solutions. This is where you get the insights to stay ahead. Let's go behind the win.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Win, the podcast where we delve into the strategies and mindsets that drive success in business and beyond. Today's guest is Geisler, Senior Vice President and Sales Enablement Manager of Fee Income at Zions Bancorporation. With a wealth of experience in sales strategy and team performance, Jared offers invaluable insights into leading in today's rapidly evolving sales environment. From the integration of AI to the importance of adaptability, this conversation is a must-listen for every sales leader.
Jared, I've got some icebreaker questions for you first.
Great.
Okay. What was your very first sales job, and what's one lesson from it that still resonates with you today?
Yeah, that's it. An interesting story. I was actually unemployed at the time, had a brand new baby at home, and my father also worked for the bank. And the department that I was trying to get into was upstairs from my dad. And so my dad provided a phone number to one of the executives, and I called him and never get him to call me back. But one day I remember calling him and saying, "Hey, I really like to come work for you." And he called me back and said, "Hey, just come in Monday, I guess. I don't really have a position for you, but come in Monday." So I came in Monday. I started as a sales, kind of as an admin, a sales admin. And I really got good at my trade. I took my job really seriously. And I really got into this groove where I was doing a lot of the selling for the sales officers over the phone. I guess it was just my natural personality. And next thing I knew, a sales role opened up and I slid right into it. So within a year, I'd been promoted and had my first sales job. And I guess,
which is crazy, because do you think that could happen today for anyone? I
don't know.
Like someone says, "Hey, I'm going to show up and we'll find a place for you."
No.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't happen these days. They created a position for me, and really within a year, I kind of had gotten my groove. And, I guess something that sticks out to me, I guess the lesson learned is, there's a quote by Abraham Lincoln that says, whatever you are, be a good one. And I had no dreams and aspirations of being a banker, certainly not a sales support person. And within a year, I'd found myself working in northern Utah in a sales role. And so it was just totally circumstantial.
It found you.
It found me, and 24 years later, I'm still here. It's crazy.
That's amazing. If your sales leadership style had a theme song, what would it be?
Theme song. Well, a quote that I love from one of my favorite bands is a band called Stick Figure. And the quote is, we're not living for tomorrow, we're living for today. I have a feeling everything will be just fine. And it's such a great thought for salespeople, and I think it's probably fits my personality as a sales leader the best. I don't stress, and when things are down, they'll be good again. It's just, I just have a no stress attitude about just life in general, but certainly about leading people.
I can vouch for that for you for sure. And which is not, I think, atypical for a sales leader, right? To not stress about these things for sure. Okay. The sales landscape is undergoing rapid changes in today's industry. From your perspective, what are the most significant shifts impacting sales strategy today?
Wow. Data has absolutely changed the sales world. And, we got into the data game really pretty early. So think about this for a second. When you work for a bank, you know where your customers' payments are going and who they're going to. We can see those.
Yep.
You know where they're spending their money, and who they're receiving their money from. We get to watch the entire trail from A to Z. So data is changed the way salespeople work. And Sarah, I'm paying really close attention to AI, specifically Copilot and ChatGPT, of course. And AI is also transforming kind of the day-to-day grind of how our salespeople do their jobs. And between those two things, and I think when you start talking about AI, you start talking about machine learning, now you're into the data world. Those two things have really changed the landscape of banking.
I like how you said it, though, especially, in the landscape of Zions, is that the data, right? You're not mining it for ulterior motives. You guys are forecasting so you can understand how you can better service that client.
Correct.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Are you guys using anything or beta in any of the AI technology at the bank right now?
Yeah, so we were an early adopter of Microsoft Copilot.
Okay.
And I had the fortunate or unfortunate, however you want to look at it, opportunity of really getting out ahead of it and training the bankers on how to use it. And specifically getting into the roles, a branch manager in a branch is going to use Copilot totally different from someone who's doing a commercial loan. And how do you speak to both of those individuals and really get into their heads on what the tips and tricks are, how would I best benefit from this? And so I'm really proud that our bank was an early adopter of the technology. We attend a lot of forums. Both with Apple and with Microsoft and with Verizon. And when they hear our story, we are always hearing, wow, you guys are way out ahead of the game on AI. We've even had local banks and credit unions who very well call us on the phone and say, hey, we hear you're an early adopter of Copilot. How'd you do it? What are you doing internally? And how's it resonating with your employees? It's really cool.
What do you think the advice is? Because people are, to me, scared of it a little bit, right?
They are.
And they change. But I think if they understand that it enhances what they do, not always replaces what they do.
Yeah, my own family is afraid of AI. And it's almost a topic we can't talk about at home because everybody has a totally different view than I do.
It's the new politic talk, is AI.
it is. And we get questions every day about security. If I do A and B, then will C and D happen. And there's not a day goes by that I don't get asked that question. If I upload this customer document into Copilot, am I going to bank jail? And the answer is no. We set the platform up to where bankers can use it to the absolute max. In fact,
with your proprietary data.
Exactly. In fact, the limitations are so small that people like me in my role, I don't even have access to the data that would be prohibited from being uploaded into Copilot. And that goes for 99.5% of our employees. So security is a big deal. I am very confident, though, that our bankers are using it right. And there's nothing putting the bank at risk.
That's great. And maybe we're going to backtrack a little bit, but why don't you tell us a little bit about the iPad initiative and everything that we did work on together at Zions? I feel like this is such a great one, especially for listeners and those who want to get their workforce, especially remote and, across the board sales workforce.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you start down the road and it starts with an initial phone call. And next thing you know, it's blown up into this huge living, breathing environment inside the bank. So when we were together, got a call from Scott McLean, our bank president, and then said, hey, why don't you go buy 8 or 10 iPads and give them out to your friends? And let's push the envelope with these things. And at the time, we really just had the Microsoft suite, so they could, in theory, email. They had access to, some cloud storage on the device, but that was really it. That was 2019. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Fast forward 6 years, we've got 2,000 devices
deployed.
I
Congrats.
remember
That's awesome.
our first few orders.
Yeah, I'm like, I think it was 50.
It was. And remember how killer it was? So we've got 2,000 devices deployed now to bankers. And effective kind of the September timeframe of last year, we have checked off every single banking tool we have in our environment is now on the iPad. And so what that means is a banker could, in theory, not even show up to work in the morning in the office. And, you know, as you recall, our whole goal was to untether a banker from their desk.
Yep.
Like, get out and go visit customers and go be with your prospects. And, you know, here we are in 2025. Bankers have our core platform on the iPad. They have they have Salesforce. They have our credit related products. Everything you could imagine is on that iPad today.
And I think it's good for listeners to know that before you did this, I mean, they could talk to a client, but then they'd have to go back to send them paperwork, to look at the terms, to do, I mean, any of those types of things that they now can just do. Right? Because they're enabled with data too.
Everything is automated. And when we talk about data, all of the Power BI tools, all of the data tools we just talked about are all on the iPad. And so literally we'll have bankers leave on vacation or go on a business trip and just take their iPad in their backpack.
Yep.
And it's really nice that we've come that far. Who would have ever thought? And
never. 2000. I mean, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
You did pioneer it, because I think of my team. I have my setup here and at home, but when I travel, I'm like, I don't love the laptop. Well, they give it to me and all those things are on it. And I remember the day when it was like, we had to move mountains to get all those things on it. And now today it's just like,
unbelievable.
Here we go.
Yeah. So all of our branches are now equipped with iPads. And, you know, when you think about having an iPad at your branch, think about the power and think about the things that get unlocked when a customer walks into the door. And we're just kind of exploring this, but when you think about authentication and all of those real touchy, edgy things that go on in a banking relationship, we have the very ability to control all of the authentication. And we're not doing this today, but we have the ability to control authentication. One thing we are doing is we're using them as an ADA requirement tool.
That's great.
So if someone's hard of hearing,
yep.
The iPad has the ability to either speak loud for them, or if they're if they're having a hard time seeing documents,
increase that. You
can increase the size on the iPad and allow them to read right there in front of you. So it was just such an awesome program, and 6 years later, it's still going strong, and we still are shipping new devices all the time.
That's great. What key attributes do you prioritize when building a high-performing team, or when someone is building one? What would you suggest them from the ground up?
Yeah, my favorite story, probably one of my favorite stories of my career is when I was leading a large sales team in Salt Lake. We were hiring for a position in Draper, which was a premier sales position. I actually hired somebody with zero banking experience. I don't think I've ever done that another time in my career. And normally that's not that weird. But when you're hiring a sales role, selling bank products and services, having the backbone of banking in your resume is really, really helpful. And this individual, 11 years later, is still my right hand. And hired them with zero banking experience. This individual, when as just situations arise and things come about, this individual managed the number one largest customer in the bank and had tremendous success with that individual. And so I think where I'm going with your question is, it's so important that you hire the personality, because, the old thing to say is, I can teach the banking, I can teach the skill set, I can't teach personality.
Yeah.
And I am such a firm believer in that. I've seen career bankers that don't have the personality, and that trade-off is really awkward. And so I'm into this mode where I have no problem hiring somebody with zero banking experience, because really when you get into the interview process and if you handle the interviews right, you're going to find out really pretty quick who you're dealing with. And, I won big with the individual that I hired, and the individual's still my right hand.
That's
Crazy.
an awesome story. I agree with that wholeheartedly, because I think me coming here, I had consulted for a while, and he brought me over to run technology operations, which is in my wheelhouse. But government contracting, the first I thought, what DOD, what does that even stand for? I don't know, So I think that's great. And that you still have them with you today is amazing. How do you strike a balance between coaching for performance and avoiding micromanagement? Kind of what you just talked about a little bit, where they don't love being accountable. I agree with you. I'm like, give me all the data you can, then I can help you, right? It's not that I'm looking at it to see what you're doing, not being accountable.
Micromanagement it should be the root of all evil, to be honest with you. And I look at people who micromanage are individuals who have two things. Number one, they have a problem with trust. And number two, they have a problem with arrogance. And neither of those are good qualities in a sales leader.
Right.
And so, it goes back to building the right culture and setting the right expectations. I'm sure if you asked my former salespeople, in fact, I know there's a handful of them that just didn't like to be accountable, but there's a right and a wrong way to hold someone accountable. At the end of the month or at the end of the quarter, the sales numbers are what they are. Now, I don't need to micromanage you and make sure you're at work at 8:00 in the morning. I don't care what time you come in. What matters to me is that at the last day of the quarter, your numbers are where they need to be. However you get there from A to Z is on you.
Yeah.
So you want to take a vacation for 2 weeks? Great, go right ahead. You're entitled to your time off. If you want to, and I've never had a problem with employees saying, hey, I've got a doctor appointment, or my spouse or my child has a doctor. Great, go do those things. My child has a soccer game. Oh, please go. Please do those things. Because there's always that level of trust that last day of the quarter, you're going to be accountable to that number, whether you filled your entire quarter with soccer games or medical appointments or not.
Yep.
And when your employees understand that, and that's just the expectation right up front, everything else is just fair game. And I think I've always struck the balance with being uber supportive of my people. And so those things never bothered me. I don't care what time people come to work. I don't even watch the clock and even make note of it. It just doesn't matter to me. It's one of the things that I just would never care about.
Right.
But
if you get my shit done, that's what I care about.
At the end of the quarter, your stuff better be turned in, and you better be good, or we're going to have a conversation. Now, even then, I'm going to be supportive, but you're not going to like the conversation. And, a couple quarters of non-production, I've had to have those conversations with people before. And I remember back, this has been a lot of years, but I remember back with a struggling salesperson, and you may look at this as a little bit of micromanagement, but after 3 or 4 quarters of not hitting your numbers, now it's really time to start having some really hard conversations. And I actually asked to look into the calendar. Like, where are you spending your time? Maybe we should start there. You're clearly not, are you going to meetings? Are you attending your branch meetings? Are you visiting your branches? And if the answer is no, then what are you filling your time with? Mm-hmm. And sure enough, we found a lot of items on that calendar that were not pointing the individual toward revenue, and that's a problem. And even then, it's a real quick correction on getting them right back on track.
Yep, I love that. And doing what you said, sales teams, I haven't ever had a growth division. That was obviously one part until I'm in this position that I do now. And to me, they are the easiest conversations to have with my growth and sales team, because it is data and numbers, right? If you're not hitting your numbers, there's nothing I can do whatever I can to help you, and it's not trending, but they seem to be the easier conversations out of the ones I've had.
So true. So true.
Cross-functional collaboration is crucial in today's business environment. We do a lot of that at the bank, for sure. How do you foster alignment between sales, marketing, product, operations team, et cetera?
It's so funny because what you just mentioned, sales, product, marketing, operations, by very definition, is revenue enablement. If you look it up, it'll say it's the cross-functional collaboration with those 4 divisions. So you've got to be good at it. And the irony of that is all 4 of those groups, they all have different personality sets. They all have different skill sets. Salespeople are different from operational people, and product people are usually the inverse of marketing minds.
Yeah.
and when you're in a revenue enablement role, you've got to be able to speak all languages. You've got to be able to be supportive. But also you have to be able to organize and pull those groups literally together. And if you were to look through my calendar on a weekly basis, probably 90% of my meetings are with marketing, sales, operations, and product, pulling those groups together, bringing people in. Now, I have the luxury of being with the bank for 24 years. I know everybody. And thankfully, hopefully, I've made a good impression on my peers, and people want to work together. And that's really nice. And so that's why I believe I'm in the right role at the bank doing what I do, because I have that luxury of being known and being present for people. So that coordination is so vital, but it doesn't always go as planned. And projects break down, personalities break down. Someone throws a wrench in the equation that affects marketing, or, marketing throws a wrench that affects product, and those are very, very difficult times. And at the end of the day, you just have to work through those.
And you're great at that. I don't think you give yourself enough credit that you are an influencer, and so to speak, right? Because I've watched you influence the sales guys. I watched you influence the ops guys, but you're great to all of them. Like, no one's more important than the other. So
and I think one of the areas, if you were to ask me to list my skill set, I think I'm genuine to a point where if you're in operations and I call you and we're collaborating on a project and, we start talking about family or personal life or whatever, I truly am. I truly do care about people and like to make those connections, because you never know when you're going to need to call on a partner or somebody internally you haven't spoke to a while. And you're going to, and it's also about the concept, we work for a bank, so this is a little bit cliche, but you talk about debits and credits. And deposits and withdrawals. It's the same thing with relationships. Sarah, you and I made dozens of deposits working for each other. Hey, great job on this. Thank you for your support. When you have a senior executive on the phone and you compliment me or I compliment you, those are massive deposits.
Yep.
And every once in a while, hey, Sarah, I know it's a weekend. I'm in a crunch. In fact, I remember being in a crunch and having to drive to your home to pick something up from you one time. Those are withdrawals. Like, hey, sorry to bug you after hours. I know you're with your family. I'm so sorry, but I have this pressing thing. It's got to get taken care of. And so those withdrawals, they're easier when you've made 100 deposits before it. Yep. You know what I mean?
That's such a great way, such a good metaphor, but it is. And I remember being in my interview at the bank and asking afterwards, because I came from Wells Fargo at the time, like what made you want to hire me over someone else? And they said it was like one interview question. They said, you have competing priorities. How are you going to get them to do yours? And I said, buy them lunch or a 6-pack. Like, because that is, right? It's
totally true.
I've got to build that relationship with them. So
it's totally true. And you know what? I've made a career of that. It's funny because for the first kind of like 15 years of my career, I live in Harriman, and I live in the farthest portion of Harriman that you can get to. Well, my coverage area was Ogden. It was North Ogden. I covered for a time Brigham and Logan. I covered Sun Valley for a time, which means a Monday morning flight to Sun Valley and a night away from my family, and then another return flight home on Tuesday. I did that for years and years and years. Many, many days I drove to Park City. So why I bring that up is I've done a lot of extra nights out, bank events in Ogden on a Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Do you think I want to be in Ogden at 7:00 on a Saturday? Absolutely
No offense,
not.
Ogden, but no. Yeah.
No, I don't, right? It's an hour commute either way for me, and it's a weekend, but I put in that time with the bankers and my partners in the collaboration we just talked about. And it's gotten me, all these years, forward, it's gotten me to where I am, to where, people do want to work with me. And I attribute a lot of it to buying a lot of lunches, showing up for people when they were sick or in the hospital. And it's just the equation of being a good partner.
Absolutely. Jared, what aspects of the future of sales strategy and leadership excite you the most?
Well, the changes with AI are going to be dramatic. We know that. I'm not on that team that believes that AI is going to take away all of our jobs. I've never subscribed to that. However, I do believe that AI is going to replace the people who are not using AI. I think that's what you're going to see. And people who don't embrace AI are going to be replaced. I've heard that many, many times as well. So we're about at Zions, we're about a year into our AI game. And having seen the progress that we've made in 12 to 13 months, what does that look like in another 12 months?
Yeah.
Holy moly. And you hear about some of the technologies that other banks are playing with and trying. If a fraction of those came to fruition in the next 12 months, totally changes the landscape of banking and how banks service customers. Yep. That's what I'm really excited for.
All of it sounds exciting. I'm with you on that team too. And maybe this kind of leads into the next one is, if you could implement one change in the sales industry instantly, what would it be?
Boy, that's a tough question. I'd cut out one-on-ones.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I asked myself this question first because I thought, coming from, I lead sales teams now, but I didn't. But what I loved about you and your folks at Zions, and then what I've even learned here, is that typically sales tosses it over the fence to ops, right? Like, hey, we're done. We signed. Good luck. I don't feel like that happened at Zions. I feel like it was always this kind of combination, and the sales team was as invested as ops had to be at the time, even after. Like you said, it wasn't just contract signing to know that you did good. It had to be once we build them and it's been delivered.
I don't think the concept of sales being able to throw things over the fence and walk away. It's a common problem in the sales industry, is they say, salespeople should always be selling. But if you're managing relationships, you're never, ever going to be able to leave a customer with a service team and walk away and never speak to them again. It just doesn't happen.
Agreed.
And I think naturally, and I think this goes with any industry, there is always a grind between operations and sales. I think it's gone on from the beginning of time. And how do you bridge that gap? Those are big, big, heavy questions on when can a salesperson walk away from a deal? If you ask me, who's a relationship guy by nature, never.
Right. But you have peaks and valleys where it is the top of your peak that you're dealing with that relationship, and the valleys where you maybe get a drop off a little bit, but never walk away from it.
And one of the challenges of being in a portfolio for 10 or 12 years is clients that you onboarded 10 or 12 years ago, you're still working with them, added to all those other businesses that you've onboarded. And you can see how someone could be a salesperson could be spending an entire day servicing customers. After years and years of adding new customers to the bank, your phone is always going to ring. And some of those are real challenges. And I'm not sure there's even an answer for it.
Good. Reflecting on your career, what achievement are you most proud of, and what lesson did it teach you?
Wow. Well, I've been fortunate. I've worked on several really large projects, ran several really large sales team, drove substantial revenue, game-changing revenue for the bank in some cases. I have to go back to perhaps, our iPad rollout will stick with me forever as something that I'm super proud of, starting from scratch. And you were a big part of that. Starting from scratch and growing it to where it is today. I'll tell you though, my recent project that is really on my plate and on my mind is I've been asked to increase adoption of Salesforce around the company. And as I've dug into this, I've realized how little people actually know about Salesforce and how to use it correctly.
Right.
And that would mean then the managers not asking the salespeople all the right questions. And so the managers need coaching as well. I'm probably more excited for that than anything as I've been in my entire career. In fact, I'm going to the university right now to be Salesforce Administrator certified.
That's amazing. Congrats.
Yeah, it's like a 20-week course, and it's been wicked hard. I thought the day that I got my master's degree, I would never, ever see a classroom ever again. And here I am back in school. I feel like a school kid again, doing homework at night. And I'm really excited for the future of our bank and what we're going to do with Salesforce.
I mean, I think that's amazing. And because it sounds like a lot of it's just not just miscommunication, but education around it, how they use it, what it's for, because we saw such a small portion of it from my end of what Salesforce can do. Now coming somewhere that uses, a CRM, it's insane what it can provide you.
Yeah, totally.
Anything else for clients that you're excited about that the bank's doing? You want to give a plug, anything like that?
Yeah, relationship management will never die. Good sales leadership will never die. And it's really interesting. One of the concepts that I've really been spending time on lately is the difference between sales management and sales leadership. Those two things are not the same. And, typically people who are good salespeople become good sales managers. But it really takes somebody different to become a sales leader. And sales leader is somebody that people want to follow. Someone that you would really get in the trenches with and you're just dying to support them and make them look and to drive revenue and all of those things. I've been fortunate. I've worked for really good sales leaders throughout my whole career. And I didn't have a choice. I never had any other option other than to go down the sales leadership role, because that's how I was mentored from day one. And I see people, I see into other companies, even some of our vendors. I see a lot of people who are good sales managers, but they're not sales leaders.
Yep.
It's a really interesting concept.
I love that. Jared, thank you for sharing your profound insights and experiences with us. Your perspectiveness on sales strategy and leadership are truly enlightening. And I think for our listeners navigating the evolving sales landscape, these takeaways are invaluable. Appreciate it, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Thank
very
you.
much.